Hello and welcome back to Your Band Sucks at Business, a podcast for and about bands trying to navigate the music industry. My name is Malcolm Owenflood. I'm here with my co-host, Marcus Manhas. Marcus, how you doing?
Not so bad. Not so bad. A little bit of snow in Toronto right now, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not jealous of that at all. I've got sun over here on Vancouver Island.
Yeah, can't have it all, can you?
Maybe I can because I live on Vancouver Island.
Sorry, I mean me. I can't have it all.
Right on. So hopefully you guys have caught the last episode where we talked about the importance of networking. And in that episode, we kind of decided that we wanted to talk about managers and how getting one works and what they actually do and everything to do with managers pretty much, because that is like, so I produce bands a lot of the time for a living and mix and master bands. And I get asked all the time about managers and how that works and how you get one and who my manager is and yada, yada, yada. That's like definitely the most common topic from bands I work with. So it makes sense to address it on here right away. Marcus, you actually kind of work in that industry, don't you?
I do, yeah. I work for a management company that's based in Victoria. I live in Toronto, but do a lot of mobile work. And by a lot, I mean all of my work is mobile. But yeah, I'm working in management for seven bands, I guess, are on the roster of the company I work for. So it's a big roster. There's a lot to do all the time. But yeah, it's been interesting. I've been doing it for almost 2 years now, I guess. And it's been an interesting learning experience, and also has been interesting to be on the other side of it, since we were in a band / are in a band that's that's been on the other side of it. The band has been, has hired the management company. So yeah, basically we're just going to talk about the ins and outs of management and what a manager does, why you might want a manager or when you might need a manager. Basically everything to do with management. This is a management episode.
And also why you might not need a manager and might not be ready for a manager.
Totally. Yeah.
Definitely got to cover that too. I feel like I probably knew before you that you were going to end up working as like in the management field.
Yeah, I didn't. It wasn't. I shouldn't say. I was going to say it wasn't like it wasn't my plan or anything like that, because I don't think that's necessarily true. I always thought that it was kind of a cool thing, but of course, performing and being in bands is like so much more exciting than being being a manager.
Totally.
But yeah, I always thought that I'd have some sort of role in the industry at some point. So
yeah. Well, for Band of Rascals, it was primarily you and I that were handling the business side of things in our band, and as things went, you really kind of just continued to like take on that leadership role and handling the technical stuff as well, and just understand. You kind of like intuitively understood a lot of how this stuff worked. And yeah, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I was like, he's going to end up on the other side of the glass.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool because in a way, I'm on both sides still.
Oh, yeah,
which is really cool because I'm still performing for new listeners, or I'm playing with a band called Current Swell, who's also based out of Victoria, and is actually a band on the management that I work for, which is that illegal? Maybe that's illegal.
Is that insider trading? Yeah.
conflict of interest? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I still play with Current Swell and another guy called Finton, a pop artist, Canadian pop artist. But yeah, so it's kind of an interesting perspective to be on both sides for me, I think. Yeah,
totally. You're actually more on both sides of the glass than I am. Like I never play anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's a little bit of a different capacity than when we were playing Band of Rascals, because we were not like, we were touring a lot, but we were okay. So how am I going to explain this? We played all the time, right? Like we had one-off shows and tours, so we were kind of always playing,
always rehearsing, always writing.
Yeah, but I've transitioned into more of like touring, doing tours rather than doing one-offs, which is really cool for me.
Totally.
It feels way more of like I have more control over it, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's like more like, okay, I got like a shift coming up where I'm going to be on the road for 2 weeks,
Exactly. It's easier to budget not even like just budget your time. It's easier to like figure things out how, like when we were in Band of Rascals, we were like seat of our pants most of the time because we never knew, we could have a show offer or a tour come up or whatever. It was just always, we were like so day to day. Whereas anyway, that's kind of getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but.
So I think the first topic we wanted to get into is, what does a manager actually do? Because there's definitely some misconceptions about what managers do. And and to be fair, sometimes managers do more than they have to, or more than they should have to do, I guess. Like, for example, when we signed up with our management team, they were pretty well our booking agent as well for a while.
Yeah.
Poor bastards.
And I think a lot of management companies that are maybe smaller to medium size, I think probably take on a lot more roles than like a big management company. I think big management companies inherently have the ability to like farm that stuff out quickly. You know, like if you're working with a massive management company, you're probably going to be a massive artist or on your way to being. And so you'll have, you know, I think you get your team in place pretty quickly. Whereas smaller to mediums, they're more of like a do it all kind of service.
Yeah. They handle it until they can fill those spots with other team members.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that, yeah, they were like, our management company did a lot of bookings for us at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I mean, they handled everything really.
Yeah. They were pretty awesome. So they, well, you know, that was a good point we just made. They handled building our team out. And they kind of made us realize that we needed a team, I feel like, as well. Bands that are doing this on like a national or international level are always, they've got a team of people behind them. Sometimes a lot of people. Like, I don't know this for a fact, but like a band, like, I don't know, for some reason the band Slipknot came to mind. I'm pretty sure there's an office somewhere where there's just a bunch of people that work for Slipknot. You know, like they have to like plan all the logistics for their pyrotechnics and their crazy, like the tour stuff. They have to have all this gear stashed away somewhere. They have to, like, they've got lawyers. You know, it's a crazy operation, and that's just like some metal band, a big metal band. But it's imagine now Justin Bieber or like Shawn Mendes or something like that.
Oh, they're not to mention their bands. Well, okay, no, sure. Let's mention the bands because the artists will be on retainer. A lot of like the session guys are on retainer.
Right.
They're like basically like lawyers. It's crazy, right? And I think that's the same with most of the crew, right? Like with Shawn Mendes, I don't know these. Yeah. Again, I don't know these as facts. But yeah, like when you get to that level, it's so important to have a team that works that, they'll be on retainer. So yeah, they'll be, your whole crew basically will just be dedicated to the project for say the cycle or whatever.
Yeah, totally. So I think our manager was kind of showed us that we need a team to like take it to the next level, which was useful in itself. They handled booking for a while until we filled that with a booking agent. They handled kind of like the legal and grant stuff for us. And then one of the most important things though that a manager does is they handle communication. Industry communication. They don't always handle social media. I guess some will have people that kind of help out with that. But what they do is if somebody wants to book us, they're talking to our team, not us. Or if they want to use our song in a movie, or if they want us to do an interview, that communication gets started through our manager or somewhere in our team, but usually our manager before it reaches us.
Yeah, they're kind of like a buffer.
Yes.
Between the outside world and you. They shelter you. They're like a bubble.
Yep.
They just put their arms over you.
Yeah.
But no, I was going to say, especially at the beginning, when we didn't have the team in place, like the publicist, the booking agent, the producers, they handled everything. So all requests would go to the management and basically we wouldn't be involved in the initial conversation at all. It all gets filtered through the manager.
And if it wasn't something that was worth us doing, and that is, you have to trust your manager to be able to make that call for you, to know what's worth your time. It wouldn't reach us. They would just they'd say no before it even got to us. And we haven't wasted any energy on this dead end kind of thing. They've eliminated that for us. So a manager's job is to say no.
Yeah, it's true. That's like the primary function of a manager.
Totally.
Saying no, or knowing when to say no too. It's really important.
Yeah. So knowing when to say no, but also knowing when to say yes, and knowing what to direct attention on. It is a lot easier for somebody that's not so close to the band to kind of like look at you from bird's eye view and see the forest from the trees. You know, where you as the band might be really concerned about how you're going to start the set for your next show at your hometown show.
Is that, this is like, personal, okay, isn't it?
we're gonna have a meeting and then have 4 rehearsals before the gig about how the intro goes. True story, by the way.
This happened on multiple occasions, though. This isn't just like one time.
Yeah, totally. Where the managers realizes that will make no difference in your career, and they're gonna worry about how to get your song on the radio or how to pitch your band as like getting onto this new festival that's coming up or something. Like they know what actually matters, and I think it is their job to communicate that with you a little bit and keep you on track.
Yeah, they definitely have. They should, in my opinion, have like the overarching goal of the band in mind and like a rough timeline and path to success for you. That's kind of their job, is to be like, this is what you've done as the band, this is where you want to be, this is where I want you to be as the manager, and then they're the ones that kind of figure out what the road looks like.
Yeah, all the steps in between.
Yeah, exactly. And so that could be anything from, like we said, booking the shows, or booking, festivals, whatever, like making connections with promoters, making connections with agents. If they think that you need an agent, you're ready for one, producers, whatever, anything that they think that you need, that's the manager's job to make it happen.
Yeah. So that could even come down to funding. They're like, okay, like we need a new album. You guys don't have the money. Where are we going to find that money? And then like our manager, Steven, was like especially good at this kind of stuff. I feel like he would just like find, actually going back to Jesse Roper, who we mentioned an episode ago, same manager, Steven, he described Steven this way for me once, and it was perfect. He's like, Steven just finds a closed door that he wants open, and he smashes his head against it until it opens, and then he walks through to the next door and repeats it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like he's a bulldog for sure.
He just like gets his sight set on something and he pursues it until he gets it. And that is so valuable, because as an artist who was trying to write all this music and having to prepare for gigs, play the gig, record, all these things that you have to do as an artist, it is really hard for you to spend the energy and time doing those types of things, these industry kind of things. Like, how are you going to have time to go meet with a festival promoter if you're meant to be on tour in a different province?
Yeah, or if you're trying to finish your album and you go and do these meetings and you are emailing constantly and trying to figure out what the next move is for you with not necessarily that much industry experience, and then you have to think about writing songs after. It's just like, it doesn't work. I mean, I guess for some people, maybe I don't know, maybe they can make it happen, but
totally. Yeah. And I think if you're one of those rare people, that is awesome. That's definitely a superpower, but yeah, that's just the exception, not the rule. Rare. And I think you'll be less happy. I don't regret paying our management team a penny. Like they earned every cent. It was like the most obvious, like, yes, here you go. You guys rock kind of situation. Not to say that there wasn't times where we disagreed and stuff like that, but
yeah, of course. But I think that's how it kind of goes with anything, right? Like, you disagree with your manager at your job too, right? Like, that's kind of, you can kind of argue that that's a good manager artist relationship, is not necessarily agreeing on everything. Well, we wanted to talk about that. We wanted to talk about how we encourage bands to stay actively involved in the future and planning of their band, not to remove the job of their manager, but to be conscious and present and part of that vision. And it's okay to question the manager. In fact, it's encouraged to question maybe not everything, but it's definitely encouraged to ask questions, and maybe not every decision or idea they have is the right one either, right? They're human at the end of the day. So it needs to be, and it's a totally different person than you. So like, you might have different ideas, and it's totally encouraged to be like, maybe this isn't the move. Maybe we don't want to play this show, or maybe we don't want to pursue whatever it is, this sync. Maybe it doesn't reflect what I value as a person or as a band. So
yeah. Like, down to choosing the producer. Like, okay, maybe that producer is just not the vibe we want our next album to sound like. Okay, like, you got to think about the path they're sending you down, for sure, definitely. But the freeing up your brain power to focus on your music is really awesome. You're going to level up that way, for sure. There's no doubt. And there's also something to be said about momentum, like when you feel like things are going in the right direction because they've found opportunities and opened up doors. Like that's really encouraging, you know?
Yeah, no, totally. I remember when we first got our management team, it felt like everything just started moving so much. It was so much smoother and so much quicker, which is weird. Maybe it wasn't. It just felt like it. I honestly don't know, but I just know as soon as we got them, it was like a weight was lifted off and we could focus on what we actually were, why we started playing music.
Yeah. Yeah. And our music changed pretty, like, cause we kind of honed in on a sound, and it definitely worked for us for sure. Another cool thing about managers is that they can be the bad guys, so you don't have to deal with that kind of bullshit. Like if you want to say no, they say no. If you have a problem with how something went down, they follow up on that for you.
Yeah.
And you know what is really like distasteful is when you approach somebody and you want something from them. So say you're trying to get a booking agent for your band, and you're a band and you're trying to like approach this agent and be like, you should work with us. We're really good. Like
that's Malcolm's pitching voice.
Yeah, totally. We're the best. But like it is much more impressive if somebody comes to them and recommends you and lobbies on your behalf kind of thing. You know, it's like you come from
showing someone has faith in you.
Yeah. You're coming at it from a much better position. This happens in like the business world a lot, where like lawyers will be suggested by headhunters to other firms. You know, they don't like go and like hand like, hey, I've got a resume, I'm looking for a job kind of thing. Like, you know, like it's like there's like they get their name slid onto somebody's desk through somebody that knows them. And it's like that's the way you get to the top of the pile, you know. Same with me trying to work with bands. Like I'm always trying to level up the bands I'm working with. So if there's a band I've got my set on and I know somebody that knows them, I'm like, hey, can you connect me with these guys? You know, that's a lot better than me just emailing them being like, you guys rule.
Yeah, I produce bands.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I do email bands I like, but that if I can get a mutual connection, that's way better. And a manager can really come in clutch with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a good manager has those connections.
Yeah,
a manager worth pursuing or worth working with. Yeah, they already have those connections, or they know how to make them, which is arguably maybe a more important, I don't know, characteristic of a good manager is someone who can make those connections.
Totally. Yeah, they should have experience in the industry and a lot of connections, because like a manager is the manager's value is their connections, and like 100%. You said, their ability to make more connections is really future facing value.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's definitely all in who they know.
Yeah.
It's like it's important in who you know as the artist, and it's everything who they know. It's crazy to think about that, actually.
It is. Yeah. Well, I mean, it just goes back to the last episode of networking. If you haven't checked that out, go listen to it. It's important.
It is. Yeah.
So let's talk about when you need a manager / when you don't need a manager and what that kind of looks like. So the most common impression I seem to get from bands I talk to is that they need a manager. That seems to be the default. But you have to realize that a manager doesn't schedule your band practices, doesn't schedule when you're going to be at the show. Like they're not going to just take care of all this little crap for you. And if you think that's why you need a manager because you're tired of being the one that has to coordinate your bandmates, you're not ready for a manager.
Yeah,
and that is why most people think they need a manager. To like, oh, it's like rounding up cats. You know, it's like, well, it's always going to be that way. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I think going back to when we were looking or like thinking we first needed a manager, I think it's easy to get that confused. Yeah, exactly. It's easy to get it confused with being like, I don't want to keep doing all so much work to do all these little things, whatever. Like there's some parts like writing grants and stuff. Yes, that's a manager's duty. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're ready for a manager to write those grants for you. Just because you need to write grants, like you still need to put in all the work before you're anywhere near ready for a manager to come in and see the value in you and just like spend their time doing that stuff, right?
Totally. As like weird as it probably sounds for some artists, but money is a huge factor. and if you're ready to have a manager. If your band isn't making money, like enough for it to be considered something of a business, I highly doubt that you're ready to have a manager, unless your music is truly unbelievable.
And yeah, totally. Or if you have some sort of, like if you have a following somewhere where they can see that there's value, maybe you're not necessarily able to monetize it yet, but
That's a very good point. Yeah. The value could be there. The audience could be there for sure.
you just have to have some sort of value.
We were kind of in the middle ground there when we got a manager. We definitely had an audience, but we didn't really realize what we could turn it into.
Yeah. We didn't really have a vision on how to make it bigger or how to further it, I guess.
And now, should have started with this. The bare requirement: if you don't have recorded music, you're not ready.
Yeah, no, definitely not ready.
Well, there just needs to be a whole episode on that. If you don't have a recorded music, you're not a real band, as far as I'm considered. I don't think you exist as a band until you have recorded music, because that is your product. Like, first and foremost, people listen to music, and that's how they become fans. Like, it doesn't matter if 100 people come to see you play live. That's only 100 people. It'll never be more than that unless you can release music online. So recorded music, that's essential.
Well, I was going to say too, that's maybe even more true than ever right now, because I don't know when you'll be listening to this, but it's April 21st, right?
Yes.
April 21st. We're in the midst of COVID-19, the pandemic. We're all inside. There are no shows going on at all. And so that's the thing. If you're a band that has no music recorded and you basically just play shows, you don't exist right now.
Yeah. You literally cease to exist. You are invisible to anybody that ever did know your name.
You don't exist. So this is an unusual time. I'm not going to say the U word, because there's another one that everyone's just saying. It's unprecedented. I hate that everyone's using that, but it's a crazy time right now, right? And so no, this is not normal, but this is a perfect example of why you need that product.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, what are you going to do now? Like, what can you do during this time if you don't have recorded music?
How are you going to even convince a manager to come see you play live if you can't even send them your music?
Yeah. I mean, I think they probably get it now. You need recorded music.
Yeah, totally. Okay. We'll leave that. Record your music.
Record music with Malcolm.
Record your music. So, anyways, so your band should be on its way to being a business or already a business for sure. Like, the more kind of profit and numbers you can put on the table, the more convincing it'll be for them, because managers make their money off of the bands they work with. Actually, I'm going to say always, because I feel like anybody that doesn't do this is a fraud. It's a commission basis.
For sure.
Yeah. And if you get approached by somebody that's trying to like sell you on like a monthly fee or like some big upfront retainer thing, run away.
That is not legit.
No. I've met some big ass managers, and all of them work commission. And because they provide value, so they know that's going to work. And
which I think that also ties back into what we were saying about needing to be able to provide value to the manager, because they work off a commission basis. If you are not in a position to play a show where you make, I don't know, well, I don't want to put a number on it, but like, to make a substantial amount of money on a show, why would a manager put in the work around that show if they're not going to get paid for it? And same with grants too. If there's no chance that you're going to get a grant,
they're not going to file for it.
They're not going to spend hours writing that grant for you. It's just like, there's no value for them.
Yeah, totally. And here's a big realization. There is a lot of talented musicians all over the place. There's probably a few other, say you're a really good band in your city, there's probably at least a couple more that are just as good as you. And there's probably a couple more that are better than you. But if you can figure out how to turn that into a value-based business, now you have the leg up over them, because the manager can come in and amplify what you're doing there and actually earn a living. Like, it's as simple as that. They need to make a living. So that's how you get them to work with you.
Yeah, totally. It's just so important to have something to entice them with. Basically, you need to be able to show them that their investment is going to pay off, or they need to be able to see a road to their investment paying off. Like, they need to be able to see, okay, well, they've had great growth in shows and metrics online, streams. They've put in the work. They've done the work themselves. That's the thing. You can grow your streams yourself. You can do that. It just takes work and a lot of research. But this is the thing. When you're starting out, you have to do that. You have to put that time in order to get yourself to a place, especially these days when there are so many bands. It's so oversaturated. There's just so many bands. You have to be able to at least build some stats and build your profile yourself before anyone else is even going to bother taking a look at you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I kind of wonder what was the deciding factor for us getting management, and I kind of think it was like we kind of had some stuff going on. We had like an audience definitely going in the right direction. We kind of had some monetary stuff, but not really. Like they kind of took a chance on us.
Oh, they did big time, yeah, for sure.
But they definitely saw some potential, I guess, and it worked out, thankfully.
Yeah, so we're gonna get Steven on here at some point for sure.
Definitely.
And we'll ask him that question. But yeah, I imagine that it was a bit of a chance, but it was maybe a little bit safer than, I know they were wanting to expand at that point, and I think we were a bit of a safer bet.
Yeah.
Because safer, not safe. Not safe at all. I don't think any of them are safe, but we'd shown potential.
Yeah. And again, the real reason they chose us is because we knew them. We had networked with them and become friends with them. So
episode 1.
Yeah. Episode 1. That'll be just like the recurring reference. Oh, the reason is episode 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I think you definitely nailed if you don't have recorded music, you're not ready for management.
Yeah. Totally. So build an audience, build a business, and build quality music. I mean, the quality music is implied. Like if you don't have that, you're not ready for this podcast. That's just like a prerequisite. And then just the networking part, of course. And then, just to repeat that, because we didn't get into it too much, they do get paid off commission. So if they book you a show and that show pays, well, it doesn't matter what they pay, but normally it's like somewhere between 15 and 20%, I believe, is kind of the standard management commission scale.
15 to 20, yeah.
I'm sure that is not the same everywhere when different people probably charge different things. I mean, and that's totally fine. Imagine like if some crazy big manager approached me, say I was like a pop singer and Bieber's manager approached me and wanted 50%, I'd probably say yes, because his 50% of like the opportunities that he's going to bring me are going to be insane. You know, like it's going to be, I'd just be instantly on like a next level, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But most people I think are like 15 to 20%, and that's kind of what you should expect if you are beginning discussions or get approached by a manager.
That's the thing too, like you got to think that management is just one part of your team that's going to take a cut. So yeah, 15 to 20 is like, doesn't seem like a ton for the amount of work they're doing. But then later on down the road, when you need an agent and a business manager, and those all take a cut.
Yeah. And don't get us wrong. Our management team was great. So they earned every penny, but you lose 20% of that. And then say you had an agent, a booking agent, that was another 20%. I'm just using 20% for everything here.
That's a big old agent.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you have 60% left, right? And then say you have a producer because your song did really well and your producer got points on it. So you like somehow lose 10% of that. You know, like all of a sudden you're making 50% instead of 100%. So the manager has to be really worth it. Yeah. Like if they aren't, and you're like, you don't level up and you are just making the same amount of money that you already were, and you're now losing 20% of it, that was a business mistake.
Yeah, totally. That's when you fire your manager.
Yes.
That's when you say, you know what, this is not working.
Yeah, totally. And that could be for any, you know, that could happen with an agent. You know, you get an agent, but the shows just don't stay, like nothing comes of it. You're just losing the like same shows that you were already booking yourself. Then might want to get a new agent and fire them and just keep doing it yourself. You know, that could be totally any situation.
Yeah, that's a pretty standard 15 to 20 though. And a good manager is worth that 15 to 20 every single time because they're actually going to put in the work to make sure they get it. And that's the thing, like working a commission, this is an obvious part, but working a commission, it's in their best interest to get you the best opportunities possible and to maximize your revenues.
Yeah, totally. I bet we're going to get some spam or like hate mail from some half-baked manager that's going to be like, I charge them $50 a month and I'm the best. Like, okay.
Yeah. I I hope that happens. I would love to find out who that is so I can say, please don't ever respond to this guy's emails.
Yeah. So maybe let's talk about how do you actually get a manager and like, yeah, how that works. Because I feel like a lot of people think it's like hiring a carpenter. Like you just open up the phone book, like find managers.
Do you even have a phone book? Yeah. Open up the old Google.
Yeah.
Search manager.
Because it's not, you're not hiring a manager. You are adding somebody to your team. So that's like a pretty key differentiator there, is that they have to want to do it more than you want them.
Yeah, it's a mutually, I guess, beneficial relationship.
Yep.
But also, yeah, both parties have to be, yeah, like I'm sure a plumber doesn't want to come and unplug your toilet, but they'll do it. So it's definitely not like that. It's like the management team's like, I see potential in this band. I really want to work with them. And you're like, yeah, this manager seems like they've got a great track record.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've done a lot of great things with other artists. And yeah, I want to work with them. So, but yeah, how do you actually find those people?
That's a hard question to answer.
It is, but I think that there's an easy way to start it. Hoping that you have other bands in your city that you look up to and that you like and that are doing well. Like we talked about before, like that band that's a level above you, right? Like we're talking about that. Basically, you want to find that band, and if they have management, I think the easiest way, especially if you've already made a connection with that band, I think the easiest way is to basically just reach out to their management and say, hey, I've got this. So this is all assuming that you're ready for a manager as well, of course, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to be ready, like we talked about before, but that's the easiest way to find someone. It's working for this band that's doing good things. And it's easy to find their manager and it's easy to reach out to them. I think that's an easy way to start anyway.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and like one better would be just like be so closely attached to that level up band that you end up just meeting them, you know?
Yeah, like rather than reaching out.
Yeah, if you meet them backstage at a show, your chances of them responding to your email or phone call or however you reach out to them goes way up for sure.
Yeah, I think also, like you said, being so close to that level up band, there's also a good chance that they would tell their managers or they would introduce you guys. They'd say, hey, look, like this band's, they're killing it. And I think that kind of maybe happened a little bit with Roper and like, you know, they knew how Jesse Roper felt about us at that point. And I think that really helped form an opinion of us for them. So being really close to that level up band and leveraging them to make a connection with the management team is a great way to do it.
Yeah. Another thing that really worked in our favor is that we had managed to get a feature on a radio station in our city. So they had heard our song before. Like, you know, we weren't a totally unknown name to them. They'd heard our music before they saw us live even. So that, I think that really helped us. It's all about going from like in sales, business sales, there's cold leads and there's warm leads. And a cold lead is a manager who has never heard your name before and you just email them and send them this punishing request for something like, and that is the least likely to convert proposal route you can take, where if they have heard your name or they've met you or anything, like the more points of contact you've had with them, we consider that getting warmer. So this is just basic sales business principles. And the warmer your connection is with that person, the more likely they are to respond positively to your interactions.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I think that the only real exception to cold introductions to management is if you have some serious success that you can show them.
Right.
Like you can't come to them and be like, hey, like, that's not true. You can come to them, but I can't guarantee that they'll respond positively or even respond at all if you come to them and say like, oh, we sold out like 100 seat show like a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever, but don't have really any other stats to show. Like they're probably not going to respond. But if you can be like, look, we've been hustling and we've worked our way up and we've built, like we have great streams or we have, we've done some serious shows or whatever. We've made a lot of connections in this. If you can show them that you've already built value, they're way more likely to respond to that than if you just have like a little bit of success, which I guess ties in to are you ready for management?
Yeah. But I think you're onto something. You got to present it in how you have something to offer them, not presenting it as you need something from them.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause people don't really respond to that.
No, that's true with everything in life.
Yeah, like no one wants to just have a request. So, because at the end of the day, managers are in the business because they want to make a living. They want to make money, right? Like you can't be naive about it. I'm sure they love it, but it's a business as well. So you have to have something to show them, and you have to have some sort of value that you can offer them.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing to think about. Like, why is a manager in the business? And I think there's actually a couple like secret hidden nuggets of wisdom there. There's money, of course, because everybody works for a living, so that they can, put food on the table for their family and stuff like that. These people have lives, they're not just like following your band around.
Yeah.
But it's also like they have their own professional aspirations. Like, yeah, you as the band, you want to get famous and play for thousands of people, but they want to be the one that's managing a bunch of bands that does that. They want to be the one that's getting the phone call from the head of Sony to talk about their bands. Like they want that ego trip as well. So there's a little bit of like an ego status thing that's also on the table there, and that can also be kind of used well if you consider that. And then there's also networking. Like they want to build their network as well. So if you have,
they want to grow the business.
Yeah. If you have a connection that would be valuable to them, and you like, there's a great like everybody that's a musician would hate this book. It's called The Go-Giver. But if you're into business, you would like it. But it's all about just giving people shit and like value, not product, but it's really about like giving value. So if you can give your manager a connection that like helps them and furthers their career, they're going to like you for that. Like that's not being weird and skeevy and plotting. That's just being useful, and people like useful people.
Yeah, totally. And I think actually this may be in a later episode with sync and stuff, but we had a connection to someone who works with Red Bull, which ended up getting us a sync with Red Bull. And so now our management now has that contact. They have two contacts at Red Bull, right? Someone in the sync department and then someone who is a contractor to do videos for them. So, I mean, and that was from us. That was our connection, which we that connection is a little bit, it's not like we hustled to make that connection. It just happened, like it happened. But I mean, that's adding value to the management company.
Yeah, totally.
As well as their commission on that sync.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, like we said, it's like a business partnership. It's not hiring somebody. It's the same as your bandmates. You don't just go like pick your drummer and say, okay, you're the drummer I've hired. They have to want to be in the band, right? So it's the same with the manager. So don't punish them with like these request emails. Don't punish anybody in this industry with request emails.
Yeah, especially this industry. It's insane.
Yeah. I think that probably covers it. What do you think, Marcus?
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty good overview on management. I mean, like, that covers all the things that I think that I've learned about how managers work and the things that I didn't know when we first were looking for a manager. So I feel like that's a good start. And I mean, of course, there's going to be further episodes with guests and stuff where we'll cover a lot more in depth and specifics of it if people are interested in that. But I feel like that's a good overview of how managers work and how to find one and add one to your team.
Totally. Yeah, I'm really excited to get our manager, Steven, on here because it's going to be the most cuss words in a single episode, I'm sure.
It's going to be something for sure.
And yeah, it's good. We're pretty hard on each other. So.
Yeah, no, it'll be good.
Okay, thanks so much for listening, everyone. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And we would really appreciate it if you shared this with other musicians and other bands and even your own bandmates. And the last request, I know that's a lot of requests, but leave... we just told you not to request shit. Fuck. But hopefully we provided value, so it's worth it, But the best way for our podcast to grow is if there are reviews on the Apple Podcast app. That's really the only way people can tell if the podcast is worth checking out is how many reviews it has. So we would love if you could go leave us a review there. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.